Hi everyone, welcome to another Table Talk. So in today's video I wanted to discuss my lessons learned and thoughts on building with model plane foam, or MPF. MPF's been around for several years now. It came out, the company has, I think, commissioned R.L. Adams, the same company that makes Dollar Tree foam or Adams Ready Board. And it's a very, at the time when Depron was still readily available in North America, which it's not now, it was a very inexpensive alternative to Depron. So I've built entire park jets out of it. I've built park jets, using it, and Depron and Adams Ready Board. My recent FRC Foamies F18 build, I used almost entirely model plane foam. I just used some scrap Depron for my vertical stabilizers and my elevons. So yeah, compared to Depron, it was considerably cheaper. It's not as cheap as Dollar Tree foam. I mean, I can get Dollar Tree foam at a local store for me. Shipping is really a big cost, especially if you live in Canada. Although the company, they're a really good company. They do everything they possibly can. They're continually checking the shipping rates to try and get it shipped as inexpensively as possible. But I was just on their website before I started the video. A box of 16 sheets is of the grade B, which is what I've used, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, is $30, and to get it shipped to me in Canada is another $51. And then I may, depending on how things work out, I may end up paying duty on that as well. So it's let's say I don't pay duty, it's about $6.75 for a 24 by 48 inch sheet. $6.75 Canadian, whereas I can get this for $1.25, and two sheets of Dollar Tree foam make up this essentially close to the same square footage, so it's a bit more expensive. The nice thing about it, though, is if compared to building with Dollar Tree foam, is you don't have to worry about, do I leave the paper on, where do I take the paper off, do I treat it with Minwax, sealing the paper, that sort of stuff. So it's a lot, it takes, it is more expensive, but it takes a lot of the hassle that you might end up with Dollar Tree foam. It takes that out of the equation. It's also 6 millimeters thick, the same as Depron. A large number of park jet plans were designed to be using Depron, so this, all the slots and things like that are all cut for 6 millimeter foam. I believe that RC Powers, for all their version 5s, actually they laid their plans out to use the Depron or MPF, because it is a unique, 24 by 48 sheet. So because the sheets are so big, I didn't bother pulling one out actually because it's so big. For somebody like me, it's a bit of a challenge. So I always, when I build my park jets, I always cut the pieces out of the plans anyway, and then I'll go to another room maybe and lay it out on the floor, figure out where I can cut the sort of lay out some pieces, and then maybe cut the full sheet in half or 2/3 or whatever, so I can get a more manageable piece to work with. So pardon me, that is a little bit of a challenge. And if you've bought plans that were essentially set up for 700 millimeter by a meter, or a meter by a meter size sheets of Depron, then you may have to modify the pieces, the parts, as you cut out the plans, so that you can lay them out on model plane foam. Okay, the grade A versus grade B. Grade A, and you can read the history of this on the model plane foam website. The grade A is essentially smooth on both sides. This, you can see that there is a bit of a texture in it, to the naked eye, but it is fairly smooth. Now this is grade B, so it has kind of a rough, wavy side on one side of it. But it's, if I always build so that the smooth side is up on my wings, and on the inside of my fuselage and things like that. And I actually made the mistake one time of building a plane, and I had the rough, wavy side on the outside of my fuselage, and actually just a quick sanding with like some 150 grit sandpaper, and it was nice and smooth. So yeah, so that's not a big issue, and it's not wavy enough that it's causing, I don't think, a huge amount of drag that you need to be worried about. Okay, so I will compare it a little bit to Depron because I first started building with Depron, and the stiffness of Depron is, you know, one thing that I'm always looking to replicate because I'm just used to it. And you know, I put my planes through some pretty good punishment, so I want my planes to be fairly strong. So, you know, trying to use the same amount of pressure here. This is Depron. It's pretty stiff, but it is a bit brittle. So I'm just gonna, you know, it just kind of snaps. The one thing about Depron though, it's when it does snap, it's normally nice and clean, and you can just kind of fit it back together, glue it, and you'd hardly ever know there was a break there. MPF is quite a bit more flexible. I've read it's about 80% the stiffness of Depron, and it takes quite a bit longer. You see it bends quite a bit. It still bends, it still breaks pretty clean, but it bends a lot further. So it's maybe, you know, a bit more durable that way. Dollar Tree foam with the paper on is still very stiff, but you can see there you get to a certain point pretty quickly where the paper wrinkles, and then you're stuck with that wrinkle. And then you've got Dollar Tree foam without the foam. It's pretty rubbery almost. So it does feel like it has almost like a rubbery type of feel to it. One thing that I've noticed building with it is that it has, you know, like I said, if you look at even the smooth side, it almost looks like there's a fiber or something embedded within the foam. I've noticed that it does dull my knives a lot faster than what Depron used to. Maybe not quite as fast as Dollar Tree foam with the paper still on it, but that's one thing to keep an eye on is, you know, have either sharpen your blade often or have plenty of sharp blades when you're cutting it, because your blades will dull faster if you're used to building with Depron or something like that. So like I said, because it is a bit more flexible, when I make it a plane entirely out of model plane foam, I will use bamboo skewers. Normally work just fine, you know, talking about maybe a 10-inch length maximum to strengthen my vertical stabilizers and my elevons. Just because I found with that added flexibility, you know, one thing I don't want flexing around a lot is my vertical stabilizers or my elevons. So a little bit of extra reinforcement there. So it does add a little bit of weight to the plane. I would say probably, you know, compared to building a plane entirely out of Dollar Tree foam, you know, and having to play around with paper on, paper off, treating it with Minwax, they end up being about the same weight. The Dollar Tree foam is a little bit more, a plane would be a bit more sleek just because it's, you know, with the paper on is only 5 millimeters thick. But then, you know, if you don't want to deal with the hassle, the model plane foam certainly is a lot easier to work with that way. So from a standpoint of shaping, it's actually quite easy to shape. It's easier to shape than Depron used to be. It is like I said, I think it's about 80% as strong, but you know, for fuselages, things like that, it's not, you don't really worry about all the extra strength. I think since just shortly before I started building planes entirely out of MPF, I had already started using 4mm carbon rod for my wing spars. But you know, I know lots of people build with 3mm carbon tube, which is kind of the standard. So I think you should be just fine there for a good strong wing. Just, you know, keep an eye on it. And you know, if your plane is a bit heavy or you want to fly more aggressively and you find you have some wing flex, then maybe the next time you build with model plane foam, use, you know, 4mm carbon rod or something a bit stronger in the wing. So I use the same. I've used the same glues, the same paint, the same tape that I use with with Depron and with Dollar Tree foam when building with model plane foam. Never had an issue with it degrading that way. But again, like I always recommend, and the smart thing to do is always take a scrap, apply every glue that you might use, every paint that you might use, tape, or always experiment. If you're going to try a new glue or a new tape, experiment on a scrap piece and make sure that it doesn't you know, eat the foam or degrade the foam, that sort of stuff. It actually sands easier than Depron. In fact, you have to be kind of careful if you're, you know, watching the hockey game or something while you're sanding your plane. You could end up sanding a hole in it. Yeah, it's easier to build with sometimes than the Dollar Tree foam. Not as fussy anyway. So yeah, so there you go. So other than maybe a little bit of extra reinforcement here and there, compared to Depron, it's it's a very inexpensive and versatile foam, model plane foam, and I've built some great planes. My SU-27 version 5 was the first plane I built entirely of model plane foam as an experiment, and I just flew that. I literally just about flew the wings off it. I think it had 350 flights on it, and the Depron the model plane foam just stood up like a champ. So durability wise, it's really great that way. So anyway, just some thoughts. Again, if you live in North America and you can't get Dollar Tree foam, Adam's Ready board, or you're looking for something new to experiment with, maybe that's a little bit less hassle to build with. You can buy it in smaller boxes. I think you can buy 8 sheets at a time. Anyway, like I said, double check on their website. So if you don't want to buy a huge box and then find if you don't like it, or if you've got some guys around you that build out of foam, might be worthwhile chipping in and going in on a bigger box and splitting up the sheets, help reduce the pain of the shipping cost anyway. So there you go, folks. There's a short summary of my lessons learned building with model plane foam. It's a great product, and I'll continue to build with it as the remainder of the hobby grade Depron I have eventually runs out. I'm sure that I will be building with it more in conjunction with Dollar Tree foam, just to get the the best structural strength and performance out of my park jet. So thanks very much for watching. Blue skies, calm winds to everyone. Park jet noise. Yeah, the sound of freedom, baby. Take care.